Adapted from the archaic translation by Mrs. Rhys Davids. Angulimala. He was reborn in this Buddha age as the son of the Brahmin, Bhagava, who was priest to the king of Kosala. On the night of his birth all the armor in the town shone. The king's state armor too, so that he, seeing it as he lay in bed, could get no sleep, but was nervous and alarmed. The priest that night consulted the stars and concluded that his son was born in the conjunction of the Thieves constellation. At dawn he waited on the king and asked if he had slept well. "How could I have slept well, teacher?" replied the king. "My armor was lit up all night. Now what can that predict?" "Fear not, your majesty, in my house a child is born. Through he influenced the armor and the whole town was lit up." "What then will he become, teacher?" "The child will become a thief. Single-handed, or leader of a gang." "Single-handed, Lord. Had we not better kill him? If single-handed, he can be held in check." Now because he was born irritating the king's mind he was named Hisaka. But afterwards when what was seen no more, he became known as Ahisaka. Through former karma he had the strength of 7 elephants. And while he studied under the first teacher at Takasila, he respectfully waited on the latter and his wife, so that he was frequently with them at meals and so forth. But the other Brahmin youths could not endure him, and at length brought about discord between him and the Brahmin teacher, persuading the latter against him. Because of his pupil's great strength, the Brahmin devised a stratagem for his ruin, and said, "Ahisaka, you have now finished as my pupil. Give me my honorarium." "Very good, teacher, how will you have it?" "Bring me 1,000 human right-hand fingers." For he expected that Ahisaka would for shame bring one only, and could then be punished. Because of that Ahisaka's long heaped-up ruthlessness came to the front. And putting on armor, he went to the Jalini forest in Kosala, and from a cliff near the high road watched the passers-by, and rushing down cut off their fingers and hung them on a tree, till the vultures and crows had stripped the bones of flesh. Then making a garland of the finger bones, he hung it round his shoulders as if decked for sacrifice. From that time he was called finger-wreathed. And when through his deeds the road became forbidden, he entered the villages, and these became deserted. Then the king proclaimed, "Let a strong force come that we may quickly take the bandit." And Angulimala's mother, of the Mantani Brahmins, said to her husband, "Our son is a thief and committing this and that. Send for him, remain him to stop doing these things." But he replied, "I have nothing to do with sons of that sort. Let the king do as he will." Then she in love, took provisions and set out, saying, "I will bring my son and stop him." The exalted one thought, "If she comes to him, Angulimala will kill her to make up his 1,000 fingers. This is his last birth. If I do not go there might be great loss. I will speak to him." So after his meal he travelled the 30 leagues along the road, and warning off cowherds and the like, approached the Jalini wood. Now Angulimala had just seen his mother, and was thinking on her finger to make up his number, when the exalted one showed himself between them. Then said the son, "Why should I kill my mother for a finger? Let my mother live. Let me rather go for that monk's finger." And drawing his sword he stalked the exalted one. Then the exalted one exerted such magic power that, even though he was walking at his usual pace, Angulimala could not, even running, overtake him, but panting, pouring sweat, unable to lift his feet, stood like a stake and cried, "Stop, monk." The exalted one said, "Though I walk, yet have I stopped, and do you, Angulimala, stop?" Then the thief thought, "They speak the truth, these Sakyan hermits, yet he says he has stopped, whereas it is I who have stopped. What can he mean?" So he asked, "You who are walking, hermit, do say, Lo, I have stopped. Single quote. And to me you tell, who has stopped? I have not stopped. I ask you, hermit, what is the meaning of your words? How you say that you have stopped, but I have not. Then the Exalted One replied. Yes, I have stopped, Angulimala, forever. Towards all living things renouncing violence. You holdest not your hand against your fellow men. Therefore it is I have stopped, but you still goest on. Because of that Angulimala, as the Exalted One stood there revealing his true virtue, remembered what he had heard rumored about him and, his insight reaching maturity, rapture pervaded his being, like a sheet of water spreading over the whole earth. And saying to himself, great is this lion's roar. This can be none other, I think, than the Samana Gautama. To help me the Exalted One is come here. He said. O long is it since mighty sage by me revered. A hermit, to this forest great, has found his way. Lo, I will readily leave 1,000 crimes. Hearing the righteous doctrine in this verse of yours. And so the bandit removed his armor and his sword, and threw them down a cliff, into a pit, a chasm. Before the welcome one, lo worshipping, the thief, straightway asked the Buddhas to be enrolled. Because of that the Buddha, mighty sage most pitiful, Lord of all the world and of all the gods, spoke then these words to him, saying, yes, come, bhikkhu. Single quote. And even by that to him was bhikkhu, status given. He who in former days a wasteful life living, in later day no more so spends his time. He goes over the world a radiance shedding, as when the moon comes free in clouded sky. To whomsoever the ill deeds he has done, by a good life are closed up and sealed, he goes over the world a radiance shedding, as when the moon comes free in clouded sky. Surely a monk who in youth did give himself to live within the Buddha's rule, he goes over the world a radiance shedding, as when the moon comes free in cloudy sky. Thus being in the joy and ease of emancipation, he went into the town for alms. And men threw, here a clod, and there a stick at him, hitting him on the head, so that he came back to the vihara with broken bowl and sought the Lord. The latter addressed him saying, suffer it, Brahman, you have to suffer it. The result of your actions, for which you might have been roasted for centuries in hell, you are feeling now in this life. Then the Thera, summoning up a heart of love for all beings without distinction, said, O let my foes but hear the path as told to me, and hearing join with me to keep the Buddha's rule. O let my foes but minister to men of peace, who even have taken to their hearts that holy path. O let my foes from time to time but hear that path, from them who tell of gentleness, and who commend affection, and to what they hear, their actions suit. For such a foe would verily not work me harm, nor any other creature wheresoever found. He would himself attain the peace too great to express, and thus attaining cherish all both bad and good. The canal makers lead the stream, bow makers straighten the arrow shaft, the joiners mold the wooden plank, the self it is that the pious tame. Some creatures are subdued by force, some by the hook, and some by whips. But I by such an one was tamed, who needed neither staff nor sword. Innocence. Such the name I bear, while noxious in the past was I. Today most truly am I named, for now I hurt not any man. Once an obnoxious bandit I, known by my name of finger-wreathed, till toiling mid the awful flood, I refuge in the Buddha found. Once were my hands imbrued with blood. Known was my name as finger-wreathed. Oh, see the refuge I have found, with every craving rooted out. Me who had done such dreadful deeds, fast going to my place of doom. Me all that doing's aftermath has touched even here and freed from debt. Now take I my allotted share. It is a fool's part heedless to waste his life. Such are the folk who will not understand. He who is wise did foster earnestness, as he were watching over his chiefest wealth. Give not yourselves to wastage in your lives, nor be familiar with delights of sense. He who did strenuously meditate, his shall it be to win the bliss supreme. Oh, welcome this that came nor came amiss. Oh, goodly was the advice given to me. Among many doctrines mooted among men, of all it was sure the best I sought and found. Oh, welcome this that came nor came amiss. Goodly was the advice given to me. The threefold wisdom have I made mine own, and all the Buddha's ordinance is done. Deep in the wild beneath some forest tree, or in the mountain cave, is it here, is it there? So have I stood and let my throbbing heart, transported beat. Happy I seek my rest. Happy I rise, happy I pass the day, escaped from trap of evil. See, the Lord's sweet compassion shown to me. A child born of good Brahman stock was I, of pure and high descent this side and that. This day the welcome one did call me son, the Lord, yes, the sovereign of the path. Gone is all craving, nowhere have I hold. Guarded the gates, and well controlled the sense of this world's misery, spewing forth the root. From every poison stain am I immune. The Lord has my loyalty and love, and all the Buddha's ordinance is done. Low have I laid the heavy load I was bearing. Cause for rebirth is found in me no more. Thera, Anuruddha. Adapted from the archaic translation by Mrs. Rhys Davids. Anuruddha. Reborn in this Buddha age at Kapilavatthu, in the house of Amitabhadana the Sakyan, he was named Anuruddha. Thus his elder brother was Mahanama the Sakyan, the son of the Lord's paternal uncle. And he was reared most delicately and luxuriously, in a different house for each of the seasons, and was surrounded with dancers and actors, enjoying a divinely good fortune. And when he was summoned with the Sakyan Rajas to form a guard for the Lord, he went to him in the mango wood at Anupiya, took monk's orders, and within the period of the rains, acquired celestial vision. Again, receiving an exercise under the tuition of the general of the path, he went into the east bamboo wood, and studying, mastered 7 of the thoughts of a great man, but could not learn the 8th. The Lord, discerning this, taught it to him, teaching him the great course of the lineage of the Aryans. Remembering this lesson, Anuruddha developed insight and realized arahantship, accompanied by supernormal and analytic powers. Him the Lord ranked foremost among those who had attained the celestial eye. And he, living in the bliss of emancipation, reviewed one day his achievement. And thrilled with joy, he breathed forth this saying: forsaking mother, father, all his kin, sister and brother, quitting joys of sense, sits Anuruddha wrapped in reverie. By dance and song attended, by the sound of cymbals in the morning was awakened. Not so. Were pure religion to be reached, too glad was I in Mara's place to be. And now that all those things are left behind, glad with full heart to keep the Buddha's rule. Yes, passing over all the mighty flood, sits Anuruddha wrapped in reverie. Sights, sounds and tastes, odors and things to touch, that pleasure and charm, leaving all these behind, sits Anuruddha wrapped in reverie. From quest of alms he comes back alone. An unencumbered silent sage. From heap of rubbish to renew what garb he has. Did Anuruddha seek, sane and immune. He seeks, takes, washes, dyes, wears the shabby gear, this sage deliberate. For such is Anuruddha, sane, immune. He who is big with wants and discontent, is puffed up and cleaves to his kind, displays qualities corrupt and vile. And is he mindful, having few desires, contentedly serene and never upset, delighting in seclusion, blithe of heart, sure strenuous. His qualities are good, and such as to enlightenment belong. And he, sane and immune, saith the great seer. He knew my heart's intent, the Lord, he, whose peer the world has not, he came to me, by mystic power with body created by mind. To me, when further truths I wished to learn, the awakened one, the Buddha that last truth revealed. He who in freedom from obsessions joyed, that freedom from obsessions taught to me. And I who heard the blessed path abode, glad only and always to keep his rule. The threefold wisdom have I made my own, and all the Buddha's ordinance is done. Never have I rested well on bed for 55 years, it is 25 years since sloth was overcome. No heaving breath left as he lay. The mind in jhana's firm stay, with thought from every craving free, fixed on the peace incessantly. So passed the man who saw away, with mind unshaken, as they came. He suffered pangs of death in peace. Stole over his heart the last release, nibbana of the unfed flame. The last things these that now we see of him, touch and the other senses of the sage. No other conscious states shall come to be, when one that's wholly awakened one did pass away. Now, a spirit, who in a former birth had been his attendant, seeing the Thera old and feeble, came, out of her former love for him, and asked him to aspire to take rebirth among the gods. But he made answer, staying amid the company of gods, never again, seducer, comes for me. Destroyed is all renewal of rebirth. Now is there no more coming back to be. Then the other bhikkhus, not seeing the deity, were wondering to whom the Thera was speaking. To show his mystic power to them he said this verse. He who even in a moment by 1,000 ways can take purview of all the world, he is for Brahma's heaven fit. But here's a monk versed in power of magic who did see what time both men and gods, you goddess, die and come to be. He now unfolds his former karma. Lo, I was Anubhara long ago, a poor man working for my daily bread. Then I to Uparita, the recluse, of holy fame, made humble offering. Then was I born within the Sakyan clan, as Anuruddha known, by dance and song, attended, and by clang of cymbals was awakened. But I saw the Buddha, the awakened one, the Lord, for whom from nowhere comes fear. In him my heart believed and was at rest. And from the home I sought the homeless life. I know my former lives, and where and how. I lived in years gone by, among the gods. 33 I stood of Sakka's rank. 7 times a king of men I held my sway. Lord of the earth from end to end foursquare. A conqueror, of Jambudipa chief, using no force or arms I ruled by right. From their 7, and other 7 spans of life. Even 14 former births I recognize. Even then when in the world of gods reborn. In 5-fold concentrated ecstasy, my heart goes up in peace and unity. Serene composure have I made my own. My vision as a god's is clarified. I know the destinies of other lives. From where beings come and where they do go. Life here below, or other where of life. firm and wrapped, in fivefold jhana sunk. The Lord has my loyalty and love, and all the Buddha's ordinance is done. Lo, have I laid the heavy load I was having. Cause for rebirth is found in me no more. In Velava, in Vajian land it will be. That life shall reach its final term for me. And I under bamboo thickets shade that day. Sane and immune, shall wholly pass away. Thera. Parapariya. Adapted from the archaic translation by Mrs. Rhys Davids. Parapariya. His story has been recorded above. Now those verses he spoke in the Lord's lifetime, himself not yet Arahant, touching the governance of the 6 powers. But these verses he uttered after the Lord had passed away, and when his own passing away was at hand. And in them he declared the future of bhikkhus under a perverted path. Opening parenthesis. Now the first stanza was placed by the compilers. Closing parenthesis. These be the thoughts that came to a monk, seated beneath the great forest's fair flowers, lone and aloof, in deep meditation. How is the conduct of the monks changed? Since when the sovereign of the world, the man supreme, was yet staying on the earth. Clothing to shield from chilly winds, to hide what should be hid, enough, no more, they sought. Enjoyed contentedly whatever came. Whether the food was excellent or poor, whether it was much or little, they partook. To keep life going, free from greedy whims. The requisites for men as living things. And medicine too as means to live. For these, not fervently they cared, as care they did, how to destroy the poisons of the mind. In the deep forests under the shade of trees. In caverns, in the bosom of the rocks. Detachment studying and developing. So lived they, making that their instant quest. Of lowly, humble being and frugal ways. Gentle of heart, pliant and apt in mind. Of gracious manner, speech not offensive. Intent on good for others and for self. Pleasant and lovely therefore in their lives. Their goings, their enjoyments, their pursuits. Like the smooth line of a stream of oil. For them every intoxicant was dead. Mighty in jhana they, mighty for good. Now are those elders wholly passed away. Few nowadays there be like unto them. From dearth of good conditions and insight. The conqueror's rule, compact of all that's best. In plan and mode, crumbles and wears away. Bad the conditions and corrupt the age. In which even they, who for the life detached, had made good start, and to the higher things that yet remain might follow on, even they, from the swift growth of all that did corrupt, do influence for evil many folk. I think they juggle with the consciences of fools as devils sport with the insane. By the corruptions overcome, such men, pursuing here and there what did corrupt, as one who calls loud what he has got, they quarrel amongst themselves, forsaking quite the blessed path, and, after errors gone, do think, lo, this is better, this is best. They who have turned their back on wealth and wife, and child, and left their home, if they but get spoon arms, will do things that are inappropriate. They eat until they are full, then down they lie on bed, and when awakened, discourse concerning matters which the Lord blamed. All arts and handicrafts they highly rate, and practice. Such are bhikkhus, duties deemed. The while from inner conquest they abstain. And clay and oil and powder for the bath. Water and food and lodging they present to laymen, in the hope of richer alms. Yes, toothsticks also and kapita fruit, petals of flowers to chew, and curries of choice mangoes and coconut, myrobalan. In drug purveying they as doctors be, in business matters like the laypeople. Like courtesans do they parade the gear, and play the lord like any noble squire. Adulterators they, tricksters and cheats, unscrupulous, by many schemings. In things of this world freely they indulge, pursuing ways and methods fit for fraud. Seeking a livelihood by cunning craft, they draw together plentiful store of wealth. To settle business is the chapter called, not in the interests of the holy path. And when they preach to others, it is but gain. That is their motive, not the good of men. Many there be without the monks' orders fold, who brawl and quarrel over the monks' orders' gains. Impolite spirits they, all unashamed, to live on offerings to others given. Some too there are who lacking piety, though with head shaved, and with the yellow robe, yearn all the while to be revered, and crave after favours, treats, and gifts. Thus when so much as now is fallen away, no easy thing it is, as it was then, either to touch and win the unattained, or to hold fast what has been touched and won. As one who shoeless walks in thorny bush, remaining in maditative attentiveness at every step, so should the sage in township make his tour, remembering the saints of other days, and recollecting how it was they lived. Even though today be but the aftertime, he may yet win the ambrosial way of peace. Thus in the Sal wood spoke the good hermit, well trained and practiced as to his faculties. Then to the saint came the peace of the passing, came to the seer for whom ye cause no rebirth.